Hello everyone. This is my paper Seeing Jenny Wren as a Child Through the Bourgeois Lens, Narrative Distance and Absence in Our Mutual Friend. Charles Dickens' Our Mutual Friend received a mixed reception from his contemporaries, while A.S. Dallas classed it with Miss Dickens' best works, claiming the only weak point is no real connection between the tale of social quarrels and the main story. Harold James considered it as the poorest of Miss Dickens' works, and criticizing for the methods of characters like Jenny Wren, a young doll dressmaker, and coldly pigeonholing Jenny as an unnatural little monster. The two seemingly irrelevant contemporaries may be woven together in this essay. The plot of social quarrels does have a subtle connection with the main story by providing a bourgeois perspective on the latter, and it is the narrator's proximity to the bourgeoisie urges himself to exaggeratedly infantilize the working-class girl Jenny, thereby rendering her grotesquely unreal. Here the bourgeoisie, as used by Frederick Engels, includes not just the middle class but also aristocracy, so as to highlight the opposition between the group with property and the group without. This essay thus argues that the networks of characters, the narrator and the narratee, are to a degree class biased, and this bias results in a framing of Jenny as pitiable, powerless, doll-like child, and her desires for authority and agency in consumer culture as puerile. However, if we notice the absence of Jenny's thoughts and feelings and the instabilities in narration, we could resist such a bourgeois framing and read Jenny as able and powerful. Noticeably, the middle class in Our Mutual Friend more or less are related to the nobility. In those good society parties, Lady Tippins and the first cousin to Lord Slicksworth, Miss Melvin Twymnell, in a broad sense, are the titled class, but they sit comfortably with the professional class, who imitated an ideal lifestyle of the noble class. Also, as Peter Gurney observes, after inheriting wealth, the dustman Boffin develops into a miser, or at least pretends to do so, and his wife becomes a high flyer at fashion and compels them to move to an eminently aristocratic mansion and surround themselves with fashionable things. Twymnell, just due to his relationship with Lord Slicksworth, is frequently invited and habitually arranged first in a dining table, suggesting the yearning of the middle class for the aristocracy. All of this sets the main story in a backdrop where either as Karl Marx described the higher middle class as the aristocracy in their modes of life and endeavor to connect themselves with it, or as David Carnegie argues, the upper class incorporates into the middle class. Either way, the tale of social quarrels indicates that in the main story, the landed class and the mercantile class fuse together into the bourgeoisie, distancing themselves from the neighboring classes. In addition, when Mortimer Knightwood functions as a storyteller of the main story, as well as a commentator and observer in good society gatherings, his role, as Bert Holmbeck knows, hints teasingly to us that he could be the narrator of the novel, and that his understanding of the world is what Dickens proposes to us in the end. This obfuscation of the distinction between a character and the narrator leads to the illusion among readers that the main story is recounted by a bourgeois character in a good society dinner party. From a narratological perspective, the narrator also clearly groups himself with the landed and commercial classes. For example, in this passage, the narrator identifies himself and his audience, the upper-class lords and the middle-class gentlemen, as a we unity, and distances this unity from the destitute, which are referred to as they. Through such a bourgeois lens, the narrator attempts to hold Jenny in a child position, thus making her unreal. But there's more to her than something the narrator can infantilize. The narrator as a working class girl, Lizzie Hexaman, first addresses Jenny as a child, and after Jenny's names are revealed, the narrator always refers to her as Jenny Wren, a pseudonym named after the songbird, regarded in nursery lore as the wife, bride, or sweetheart of Robin Redbreast rather than Fanny Cleaver, a name that suggests her susceptibility and her profession as dressmaker. In this way, Jenny appears to be more childlike than perceptive and professional. Furthermore, the mid-Victorian bourgeoisie tended to regard a girl of Jenny's age, 12 or at the most 13, as a girl, as a child. Rich fathers pronounce childhood for their daughters to advertise the excellency of both his earning capacity and his domestic affections. And it was until unmarried heiresses reached 21 that they could legally manage their money and property or marry without the concerns of their parents or guardians. As such, from a bourgeois perspective, Jenny is more a child misplaced in a role of adult than a nominal figure between child and adult. However, the narrative also illustrates Jenny as an indefinite figure. She is a child, a doll, a girl, or something. Charlie Hexman also describes Jenny as a little crooked antique of child or old person or whatever it is. And for Miss Abby's question, child or woman, Miss Ryan replaced child in years, woman in self-reliance and trial. Interestingly, Charlie is always referred to as boy, neither man nor child, and his origin as the son of a waterman and his rise into a pupil teacher place him on the threshold of the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Likewise, Ryan's race makes him peripheral to society, and his masquerade as the owner of money-lending business and his real identity as an employee also locate him in an intermediate state. The two in-between characters both define Jenny as a nominal figure who, as Benmore claims, exhibits a strange indeterminacy, or as Frederick Louis Elderman states, can fluidly move in and out of different states of being. Additionally, with the employment of focalization, a selection or restriction of narrative information in relation to the experience and knowledge of the narrator, the characters, and or other more hypothetically entities in the story world. Jenny, it can be seen that the narrator omits much information about Jenny. More often than not, Jenny is not the focalizer, the subject of focalization, from which the elements are built, but the focalized, the objects that the focalizer perceives. When Jenny is focalized by other characters, those characters are unable to access Jenny's source. When Jenny is focalized by the omniscient narrator, she is often perceived, quote, from without, unquote. That is, only the outward manifestations of Jenny are presented, her feeling and source remaining opaque. In fact, if the proletarian Jenny were real, her understanding of childhood may be different from that of the bourgeois narrator and author. In his 1851 interview, Henry Mayhew addressed an 8-year-old watercress girl as infant or child and sympathized with her lack of toys and sweet stuff, whereas the young sailor's own accounts show that she did not identify herself as a child requiring sugar sticks. Not knowing Jenny's source and assuming her to be a child in accordance with the narrator's bourgeois constructions led to the deficiency of verisimilitude that Henry James noticed. From a different viewpoint, Jenny's names have also suggested her potential for being read as an adult. Eve Kosowski-Sedgwick points out that the name Fanny Cleaver hints at aggression and rape. Although Sedgwick means homosexual rape between men here, this name may also infer vaginal penetration, for Fanny apparently referred to female genitals throughout the 19th century in England, and Cleave suggests splitting and penetration, thereby enduring the character with violence and masculinity. Also, the Oxford Companion to English Literature explains Jenny Wren as the business name of the doll dressmaker, so the fairy tale moniker can be not just romantic, but also commercial. In this case, the change of names may demonstrate Jenny's obsession with the children's world and the rejection of adult skills, but it can also reveal Jenny's talent in advertising, particularly considering her designed business cards and her desires to hide her own aggression. Thus, Jenny's demotion of her father, Mr. Dawes, to a child position and her control of his alcohol consumption may not just demonstrate a father-daughter inversion, nor victimize Jenny, but manifest Jenny's desire to manage domestic economics as an adult and her refusal of the impotence brought by a child state. In addition to infantilization, Jenny also faced the threat of from the Bourgeois narrator's revocation. The narrators sometimes employs the pronoun it or the endearments little figure, little creature, and the little thing to refer to Jenny. Indeed, littleness as an indication of preciousness, physical smallness, modesty, and most importantly, self-abnegation in service of others, is an idealized quality favored by the Victorian bourgeoisie. However, the pronoun and the endearments refer to not just a child, but also an artificial, inanimate being, such as a doll. Moreover, the expressions being turned out of the mold, whenever she gave this look, she hitched this chin up, and her eyes and her chin worked together on the same wires, also give readers an illusion, as if Jenny were marionette made out of the mold and manipulated by wires. When the narrator relays minutely how Lizzie brushes Jenny's hair, playfully smoothing the bright long fair hair, Jenny on the one hand is associated with the fairy tale princess Rapunzel, and thereby with the child image, and on the other hand, the adverb playfully dismisses Jenny as a doll which can be played by Lizzie. To resist the infantilization or revocations, Jenny relegates characters around her to children and her higher class customers dolls. This resistance breeds more than one interpretation. Moore argues that Jenny's action of watching fashionable ladies on street is in line with the 19th century imagination of dolls, which were imagined to watch their owners. In contrast, Gurney views the action as Jenny's revenge on a society whose structural inequalities she stoically endures. Because while those ladies imagine Jenny as a little creature, admiring the staring at them, Jenny in effect only considers them as dolls working for her. To put it differently, Jenny objectifies those who objectify her, and commodifies those who consume the commodities that she makes. Consequently, Jenny oscillates between child and adult, doll and doll maker, within a bourgeois framing and beyond the framing. Jenny controls domestic finances and reifies her clients, but her commercial desires are more obvious in her imagination of her future husband. She exclaims, because when I am courted, I shall make him do some of the things that you do for me. He could take my work home, and he could call for orders in his clumsy way, and he sure to. I'll told him about. I can tell him. Although John Mee argues that the idea of a woman intellectually superior to her husband can only be allured in the comic subplot by Dickens, refusing any serious aspect to the rise of women and all that kind of thing. Jenny's own words also depict herself as a more determined and powerful figure than the one shaped by the bourgeois narrator. The shift from shall to could and back to shall, will, and can demonstrates the change of Jenny's state from assertiveness to uncertainty, and then restoring to assertiveness. One moment of hesitation, Jenny firms her confidences and the determination that her future husband will not only obey her orders to take care of her, but also assist Jenny to run her business. In other words, the him submits to Jenny in two senses, as a husband and as an employee, emotionally and financially. This intention challenges the Victorian gender stereotype in both family and workplace. The capitalized him also reminds Western readers of God, and thus Jenny's celestial power, acting as a creator of heavenly gardens and as an interpreter between this sentient world and the insensible man. Such a coordination empowers Jenny by subverting her disadvantageous position in gender and class boundaries. Due to his characteristic with the bourgeoisie, the narrator to represent Jenny as a doll-like child, but because of the class dichotomy, the absence of Jenny's source, the indefinite definitions of childhood in the era, and most importantly, Jenny's own assertion, a reshaping of Jenny is possible. If Jenny were a possible person, when we look at her simply as little or child, she would perhaps act as she did with those fine ladies or her bad boy, staring at us in return and calling us doll or child. Thank you for your listening. Here is my work cited. Thank you.